Start recording now. And do you want to introduce yourself, Sophia? Or do you want me to introduce you, or do you just want to not get introduced and just dive right in?
Yeah, let's dive right in. Let's do it.
Okay, well, I think I will say a couple of words here just so we can get properly introduced. Hello, everybody. Nice to see all of you, or some of you. Um, I'm just going to quickly introduce our speaker. We are super duper happy to have her back again. Sophia Mavridi, she joined us for our international conference a few months ago, and she's back again. She's a digital learning specialist and lecturer in ELT at De Montfort University in the UK. Her research focuses on online learning and the increasingly important role of digital literacies in language education, which is something that I think everybody in here is interested in. She supports institutions and teachers to integrate technology in a pedagogically sound way and has trained for major organizations around the world. The short version is that she's awesome sauce. She's super duper good. She's also one of the editors for a book, English for 21st Century Skills, which is also awesome sauce, and you should pick up a copy of that if you have a chance to. And her session, which is going to start right now, is called Lights, Camera, Action, Filmmaking for Language Learning and Digital Literacies. Sophia Mavridi.
Thank you, everybody. So, right, let me share my, okay, I suppose you can see that now. Great. So thank you so much, Michael, everyone. Many thanks for joining us. So this is my second time in Korea virtually, as Michael said, and I hope I will be able to visit this beautiful country in person when this pandemic is totally behind us. So it's 8 o'clock in the morning here. I'm not a morning person, but I hope I will deliver. So yeah, I'm in the UK, in Leicester. So today I'm going to talk about filmmaking for language learning and digital literacies. So where are you based? Can you type in the chat? Night owls. Yeah, night owls. Exactly. Okay, Tokyo. Fantastic. Nergis, hi. Mexico, South Korea, rural Korea, fantastic. Excellent. So keep them coming. So the session is going to be, I'm going to be talking about filmmaking for language learning and digital literacies. And it's a talk, it's not a workshop, but it has practical application. So hopefully you will take away lots of ideas to use with your students. So Michael has introduced me already, so I don't have anything else to say here. So just feel free to interact during the talk, interact with me, with one another via the chat. You can take pictures, you can share them on social media if you want. This is my Twitter, this is my Instagram as well. So no worries if you're not on social media, because I'm going to share my contact details at the end. So this is what we will attempt to do in the next 45 minutes or so. So the framework I'm going to present can be adapted. It's flexible, and you can adapt it to many language learning scenarios and contexts. I've seen it, with young learners, with adults, with ESP, business English, academic English, etc. So, and finally, we will consolidate and hopefully end with Q&A if there is time. So let's begin. So 5 years ago, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, Mr. Facebook, coined the term video first and predicted that in a few years, the vast majority of content that the people would consume online would be video. And he was absolutely right. It looks like motion is the new filter. Mr. Meta, exactly, Michael. So, so motion is the new filter. Video is gaining momentum. It's growing fast. And the truth is that our brain loves video because it brings together three things that catch our attention like nothing else: image, motion, and sound. So all these features play a very, very significant role in getting a message across. So, and it is very relevant to us as language teachers. So only 4 years ago, these are statistics from 4 years ago, before the pandemic and before the incredible boost of online content, statistics were confirming that video dominated over other media. Sometimes something that marketers monitor very closely. They study how to target audiences via video, via media in general. And this is something that makes digital literacies and media literacies very, very important. We and our students need to be able to understand, to filter messages, to critically evaluate the messages and make informed decisions, not just consume content passively. But we'll come back to this later on. So video is becoming increasingly popular. And look at TikTok, the video sharing social media. Do you use it? Are you on TikTok? Yes, no? Just type in the chat. Yes, 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 no? So I have to admit, I haven't embraced TikTok. Yes, 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 no. Yeah, I have to admit, I haven't embraced TikTok, but I do like Instagram Reels, which is very similar. So for those of you who are not familiar with TikTok, so TikTok allows users to create, edit, and share short video clips, and I would call them short films, because the video clips that are successful and go viral tell a story. Okay, so and then the users dress them up with filters and music. So the trends are clearly showing that TikTok is becoming a global viral phenomenon. And yes, it is very popular with young people, 12 to 20 perhaps, but the number of adults who use it is growing. So Instagram Reels, exactly, Ashley. So, so the question now, okay, we talked about filmmaking and videos, and it is really popular. The big question now for us is why filmmaking in the language classroom? We are not media teachers, and we are not IT teachers. And at the end of the day, what we want is to help our students learn a language. So that's the big question. There are quite a few reasons, really. First, because it is simple. You may think that you need to be a media expert and that it is complicated, etc., but it is not. You don't need to be a media expert. You can do it with just a smartphone, with a decent camera, and the editing is simple too. It doesn't need to be polished either, because I believe that the beauty of this project is in its rough edges, if you know what I mean. So it speaks to students in a language that they know. It bridges the gap between what students do at school and what they actually do outside of it. And very often there is a huge gap between the two. And this framework helps to bridge this gap. So assessment, I think that you may agree with me that tests are important when it comes to language certification, perhaps, but teaching to the test is not the best approach to learning a language. So this framework provides a more holistic approach to assessment. It promotes a culture of problem solving because challenges and setbacks are inevitable when you work within a group and you create something, you create media. Differentiation and creativity. Why? Especially for students who may have previously struggled with writing tasks, for example. With projects like this one, they have the opportunity, they are able to express their creativity in an entirely new way. And of course, because it promotes digital literacies and language learning, which is, of course, what we are going to be talking about today. So basically, the framework is informed by task-based language teaching pedagogies. And I think that we have all been involved in task-based learning in one way or another. So this is nothing new to you. Just in short, task-based learning, task-based language teaching believes that students may learn more effectively when their minds are focused on the task rather than on the language that they are using. So the primary focus of the activity is the task, and the language, English, is the instrument that students use to complete the task. But there is a but here. We can't just assume that any task organically will help students to develop their skills, their language skills. So we need a pedagogical approach to help students to develop the skills that we want them to develop, to learn English, because this is our primary aim. So now with regards to digital literacies, people may associate digital literacies with the skills for using computers or for creating videos or for using filters on Instagram, but it is so much more than this. I find this definition very comprehensive, and I think it hits home for us language professionals. So according to the House of Lords, digital literacies refer to the skills to use, create, and critique digital technologies, and the knowledge to critically understand the structures and syntax of the digital world, and to be confident in managing new social norms. So we are not talking only about knowing how to use computers, how to use social media, how to create videos, and all these amazing things that need technical skills. Our students need to understand the syntax and the structures and critique information and manage social norms in order to live and navigate the world that we live in. And the world that we live in, Kieran Donaghy mentioned that yesterday in his amazing keynote. So the world that we live in is becoming increasingly multimodal. Communication is becoming multimodal. And ELT has an important role to play in helping students to develop the literacies that are needed to function in this world, because exposure to English is taking place via text, via image, via video, sound, not just text anymore or sound. And added to that, taking into consideration how the media can manipulate people, being able to analyze media messages is becoming increasingly important. So it is not just a project to have fun. Of course, we will have fun. The students will have fun. It boosts their creativity. They will love it. But there is a significant purpose behind that as well. I'm not saying that having fun is not significant. It is very, very significant. By the way, all the parts of this presentation that refer to digital literacies come from my chapter in the book, English for 21st Century Skills. Michael mentioned that at the beginning. It was edited by Daniel Seri and myself and published by Express Publishing. And I'll say a little bit more about it at the end of this presentation. So, yes, that's it. Thank you, Michael. This is it. Yeah. So in particular, this project with regards to play games. Yes, Anika, play games in the conference to win this amazing book. Yeah. Thank you. So in particular, this project, because digital literacies are there are a lot of digital literacies. So in particular, this project will help students to design, remix, create, and reflect on digital media and resources, solve problems online, communicate effectively online via text, video, and audio. However, merely producing media, in our case, films, is not going to lead to media and digital literacy. There should be a reflective part in it. It won't lead to language learning either. Just creating a short film does not necessarily enhance language learning. So we need a framework and a pedagogical approach. So here is what I suggest. The PPR framework that I've put together, and it was informed, as I said, by task-based language teaching and digital literacies pedagogies. It is a three-stage process where all stages are important. You can't just jump to stage 2, for example, and create the film without any preparation. And I'm not talking only about technical preparation here. And you cannot finish at stage 2 without any sharing or reflection. Remember, just creating films does not lead to digital literacy or language learning. So depending on your student's level, and this is something that you know better than anyone else, I would give it, I would give 30 minutes for stage 1, 50 minutes for stage 2, and 30 minutes for stage 3. And I'm going to talk more about the stages, but just know that this is flexible. This depends on you and your students. So let's have a look at it more closely. So first of all, let me say that as language teachers, you will need to place it within a topic, within a theme, whatever theme you're working on at this particular time. It may be the environment, it may be Christmas, traveling abroad, friends, family, well-being. You need a frame. So the theme you're working on at that particular time. And of course, the framework assumes that you will have done some language work within this theme. Some vocabulary, some grammar, some language in general, some discussions about the theme. So the framework assumes that this has been done. And this is why I would place this project towards the end of a unit, if you know what I mean, rather than to introduce a unit. So let's have a look at the stages. All of them are written in imperative form, and this is as if you give instructions to students. So students have to think of a specific topic within the theme that you're working on, brainstorm ideas, focus on the most effective ideas, then prepare, research and plan, decide how long their film will be, create a script, do the storyboard. I'll give you an example in a bit. Ask questions, allocate roles. One will be the director. These two are going to be the actors. This person is going to write the script, etc. And set up the materials and equipment. Now, in stage 2, students produce the film, a short film, I would say 1 to 6 shots. Again, this is up to you. But if they create something very long, then we go to the technicalities, and this is not the idea. The idea is the project. The idea is to engage with one another and not focus so much on the film itself. So they create a short film with their smartphones, and then they edit it. They use an app. I will show you, I will give you some suggestions. They use an app to put the clips together, trim the clips, add filters, captions, music as needed. And then finally, stage 3, they upload the film onto the class LMS, Dropbox, Google Drive, Google Classroom, YouTube. There will be privacy considerations here, so it depends on your student's age. And they watch other classmates' films and leave quality comments. And by quality comments here, I mean that we need to encourage students to elaborate and not just say, what a fantastic film. We don't want to create echo chambers here. We want students to be supportive, kind, but also constructive. So we need to teach them how to provide constructive feedback. And finally, the evaluation part, where the groups themselves get together to discuss their approach, their film, the comments that they have received, and compare the work to the work of others, reflect on what went well, what didn't go so well. And the teacher can facilitate the process by giving students a set of criteria. So let me check my time. Yes, okay. So now, so before you begin, so there are many things that I could recommend with regards to the equipment that you need, but I won't, because as I said, the beauty of this project is in its rough edges, and the focus anyway should not be on the technology. So I will talk a little bit about the equipment, but also refer to some other important things that you will need to do in preparation for this project. So the equipment, if the students are doing one shot, you will only need a smartphone with a relatively decent camera. Now, a tripod, a lamp, or a light ring can make a big difference, and they are very affordable, but they are not essential. Now, if the students do more than one short films, 6 shots, for example, 4 shots, which is what I will show you today, you will need an editing app. And there are various options. Here are just 3 options. Videoshop and Clips are very, very simple to use. iMovie needs a more advanced skill set. But seriously, any video editing app that is not too complicated to use is your app. Okay, so don't worry too much about the app, about the technology, about the equipment. And when you are in doubt, just keep it simple. Less is more when it comes to the technology in the classroom and the equipment. So, today's project can be done with Videoshop. This is an app, it's free to use, you can download it, not now necessarily, because I'm not going to ask you to create a film, unless you want, of course, to create a film and share it with us later, and a smartphone. So this is what you're going to use. You will need a storyboard with your students. It is very, very easy to create a storyboard, but you can also grab this one from here. So this is a little gift from me to you. I will provide the link again at the end, along with the handout, so no worries if you cannot scan the QR code. But this is a storyboard. The storyboard is a visual organizer that displays the sequence of the shots, so students can roughly draw in the boxes and also take notes. And of course, they don't need to use all 6 boxes. If they do 4 shots, they will use 4 boxes, of course. Now, very, very important, consent. If you teach young learners and teenagers, you need consent from parents if the students can be identified in the video. Most parents are very happy to provide their consent, and it can be a one-off. You don't need to ask. You can, ask at the beginning of the year and they give their consent. However, if you want to avoid, the paperwork, the hassle, etc., just ask students not to film their faces, and this is absolutely fine. Now, with adults, I teach adults, and I know that many of you do. With adults, if the films will be watched by other people, if, for example, you will share the films with other classes, or even more important, if you make them publicly available on YouTube, on Instagram, on various platforms, you will need written consent. We can't just go ahead and share something that the students or the parents haven't given their permission. Now, but as I said, this is a one-off, okay, so that you can ask at the beginning of the project. So assessment. So you will use this project for assessment as well. So it needs to be assessed in some way. And I would say assess all the stages, not just the film. This is an activity that boosts language learning, collaboration, creativity, reflection, digital literacies. It is not a merely filmmaking activity. So here are some criteria. You can take a picture if you want. We're talking about the planning stage, assess it, the film itself, the reflection. Did they share their film? Did they leave quality comments? The language they used, the teamwork, did they work well, etc. So you may want, and this is something I do many times, you may want to focus on only one of them or 2 at a time and assess just 1 or just 2, but make sure all of them are covered at some point if you repeat the project. And students need to know what they are assessed on. So some film ideas, short film ideas, while I'm giving these ideas, think about your own context and what would be possible for you. So most of them can be used in both the online and the face-to-face classroom. Short stories are the best, I think. So storytelling, as I'm sure you know, advertisements, amazing. And also this is very relevant to what we said about media literacies at the beginning and how marketers use media to influence people. So advertisements, grammar tips. So students could share tips about grammar, about language items. Beauty or fitness tips are very popular. Interviews. 2 students role play. 1 student is the reporter, the other one is the celebrity or the scientist or the professional, the historical figure. The other student is the director, etc. Did you know students could research and share some fun, interesting facts, and this could make a series of episodes. Memory game, they can play some objects on the table, and this is fantastic for practicing vocabulary. Catwalk for young students, for young learners. This is, of course, a face-to-face activity, and it can be used for practicing the present continuous, for example. So some students walk down the catwalk while others in turn present the fashion show and are advised to use the present continuous. Now, how to tutorials? Sky is the limit here, really. So there's so many things that students could provide tutorials on, depending on their age, the language level. So how to create a recipe, how to create a reel on Instagram, how to use an app, how to draw a heart if you teach young learners. So sky is the limit here. So I'm checking the time to see my limits as well. So, okay, so we are good, we are good. So now, okay, so now we are moving on to the more practical part. Of course, as I said, this is not a workshop, so I'm not going to ask you to create something hands-on, although you can if you want. This session is more than enough, though, to get you started, to give you enough input and practical ideas and apply them with your students. So this is the app that I'm using. This is what I use, and I recommend. It's video, it's free, it's called Video Shop. You can use, as I said, any app. It might not be available where you are. It doesn't matter. It can be any app. All the video editing apps, or most of them, have, you know, similar features. So as long as it is simple to use, the idea here is not to use too much time on the technology, but get on with what really matters, which is creativity, language learning, and digital literacies. So I'm going to show you, I created a short video, a tutorial about how to use the app, and let me just share it now. And as I said, it can be, oops. Yeah, that's it. Oh, no, that's it. Yeah, and I know now that you can see this, sorry. So yeah, that's it. So yeah. So you select the clips, the shots, 1, 2, 3 here. I'm selecting my short shots. At the end, I have put a little picture that says the end. And now I'm going to trim. I click on the scissors and I just trim them to make them shorter. They need to be short, really. So I click on the scissors, trim them, click on the tick. That's a restaurant in Leicester, by the way. Yeah. And now I'm going to add transitions. So I click on the transitions button and I add a transition. I love transitions. When one shot, you know, there is a transition to go to the other shot. And students love them as well. So I add transitions between the shots. And finally, I add music, applause at the end. So I click on the last, the end that I say the end, and I put applause. And then I add a clip from the beginning until, it's very, very easy. You just click on the shot and you add music. Now I need to add a title. I go to the themes and I pick a random title. Less is more, my motto. In general, in life, I add my name. And done. That's the clip. I check it before I download it. That's my partner enjoying his meal. And then I save to my camera roll, and that's it. So in less than what? Let me go back to my slides here. Of course, you will need to play with the app a little bit, the students, but after you introduce the app, believe me, these are skills that they pick quite quickly, so you won't need to spend a lot of time. So after I show students how to use the app, I need to give them some instructions. So I design, a slide with the instructions. So this is just a sample working group. So for if the general theme is learning online, for example, here are some ideas, a short story, an interview, etc. Your theme might be the environment. It might be something totally different. And then I ask them, once you finish, please upload your theme, your film here. So this is, I created a Google Drive folder for students to just drag and drop their film, but it depends on your LMS. You might ask them to upload it on Dropbox, for example, or somewhere else, or Moodle, or whatever you use, at Moodle, Google Classroom, etc. Of course, you will need to go through the steps with the students. So think about the topic, prepare, plan. These are so important, these stages, and they should not be rushed. So prepare, plan, decide who will be the director, who will be the scriptwriter. You have here the group dynamics. Even if it fails, even if there is conflict, they will reflect later on what didn't go well. And then they produce, they create the film, give them some guidance. Don't just leave it, free and open. It has to be short so that we don't spend too much time on the technology. And of course, the piece of advice here and the key, the magic phrase is keep it simple. This doesn't mean that they shouldn't be creative. Yeah, so before we go to stage 3, I'm going to show you 3 clips. I won't show you students' films because this is a public presentation. I said that you can take pictures, there is a recording. I don't want to show actual students' creations because I don't have consent to make them publicly available. So instead, I'm going to use teachers' short films. So from a 15-minute workshop, face-to-face workshop, I gave in October 2019 at ITEFL, Slovenia. So I have their consent to share far and wide because they're amazing. So they worked in groups to create their short films, and the general theme was the conference itself. So I made a compilation of their films. I used Video Shop as well, and added transitions, music, etc. So now, while I'm showing this, and you will see it is not something technical, there are rough edges, but it's so amazing. So think about your own context. So let's do it. Let me find it first of all. Yeah, I did. So let's go. Film 1. Film 2. And film 3. I added the music at the end. Okay, so let me go back to my slides and end this presentation. Okay. So, and then after the students have created short films, there are stages A and B. As I said, they're very important. I would say perhaps the most important stages. So don't skip them and don't rush them, but give them the attention and the time that they deserve, because it is at the reflection stages where students consolidate and strengthen what they have learned. So this is stage 3A, where students share and leave quality comments, and where they evaluate later on as a group. They evaluate the process. And the last stage is the consolidation as a class. So here you work as a class and ask students to reflect on the process. And I would definitely ask some questions about the digital literacies that your project helped students to develop. So if the focus was on multimodal communication, for example, you could ask students, what did you learn about the way pictures convey messages, for example, about remixing, about crediting people's work, about collaborating online. So now I'm finishing. I said that I would tell you a little bit about that at the end, and here is the chapter. I was telling you about the book, English for 21st Century Skills with Express Publishing, and in this chapter called digital literacies and the new digital divide, and I develop an argument about the importance of integrating digital literacies into English language teaching and learning. Also, tomorrow there will be a panel discussion, so come join us. I think it's 5 p.m. Korea time, 8 a.m. UK time, where Daniel Seri and George Kokolas we will be all on the panel. So come join us, and it will be interactive as well. So we will be talking and interacting. So here are the references. As I said, I'm going to give, to make the handout available. So this is the citation, and here is, if you scan this, you will find the storyboard and the handout as well. Or you can take a picture and scan it later. The film is here, and you can also find it. SophiaMavridi.com is my website in the presentations. Great. Thank you very much. I don't think we have time for questions, but here are my contact details. And as I said, tomorrow there will be a panel on 21st century skills. So this is within 21st century skills. So you can come join us and ask questions there. I don't know, Michael, do we have any time for questions? I don't think so. Do we?
Sure, sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Rhea, hi.
Hello.
If anyone does have a question, you can just type it into the chat or unmute yourself and ask away.
I will stop sharing now so that I can see everyone. So no questions.
You're all shy? I don't believe it. Come on, Daniel Bailey. Let's have a question.
I'm not a fast enough typer, but I'm curious, like when you've had, do students pick up the technology faster than when you've trained the teachers?
Absolutely, yes. When it comes to technical parts, I mean, click this and click that and the app, yes, absolutely, because they already know. I don't want to generalize, but they do create films. If they are on Instagram, they create reels, for example, so they know what it means to trim, to, you know, to add transitions, etc. So when it comes to the technical part, yes, and in general, any technical skills, yes, they pick them faster. This doesn't mean that they are digitally literate. The technical part might be there, but the reflective part is not that easy to do with students. So we need to really integrate it into our teaching somehow. So the reflective part is difficult for students, but not impossible. It's so good to see so many of you.
There were several questions. Michael, can you get up in the chat? I think a few more questions are further up there.
Yep. Erin asked, she said, you may have answered this. What kind oh no, wait. That's not her question, that's somebody else's question. Which part did you find the most difficult? Which stage did you find the most difficult? I believe that's Erin.
That's a very, very, very interesting question. And I'm not trying to be diplomatic, but it depends. It depends on the students. So if you first introduce this, it depends on what you have been doing, you know, if you have integrated somehow project-based learning, you know, this kind of teaching, task-based learning, it might be easier, you know, the reflective part. I find that the last part needs more attention, because what happens is that we usually skip it or rush it, you know, it is at the end. So, okay, so how did it go? No, it is very important for students to share their creation, because, I mean, let's face it, we create something for an audience. So if we don't share it, then what's the point? Then it's very important for students to leave quality comments. As I said, we don't want to create echo chambers here. Oh, fantastic film. Oh, great. No, we want something constructive. Great. Why? Please add the reason. Or fantastic, because we want to encourage and we want to tell people that online, of course, we need, when we give constructive feedback, we need, of course, to be polite. But, you know, just say what didn't you like? Okay, so this could have been better, etc. And there are lots of opportunities for language here as well, to teach language. So this part, I find it a little bit more challenging time-wise, but also the reflective part, as I said, and then 3B, where the group gets together to reflect on what they did and to set, you know, an action plan for the next project. So what did they learn that they will repeat in the next project, or they will do differently? So these are very, very important stages. And my experience, myself included, is that we tend to skip them or rush them or not give them the attention that they deserve. So I would say it is difficult for us teachers as well, not only students. So it is difficult as in the planning. So make sure you plan and you give the time that it deserves. It doesn't have to be on the same day. You can leave stage 3 for the next day.
Thank you. I have a question actually. So I've done film projects with my students and I just loved so many things about the whole deal. My question is, what kinds of stories have you found your students focus on? In Korea, I worked with university students and their stories ranged between, the most popular themes were a day in the life or a movie scenario. They would take scenes from a movie and do these amazing recreations, or sometimes they would recreate traditional stories from their culture. So I was curious, what areas or cultures of students did you work with, and what kinds of stories did they gravitate towards? Because I noticed that that was the #1 on your bullet list of suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that we are very, very fortunate to work with